Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Data Unchained. I'm your host, Molly Presley. Let me tell you a little bit about what Data Unchained is all about. As you think back over the last few decades, the usage and even the creation patterns of data have changed dramatically. Thinking back to the world where the first mainframes, all the people, the applications, everything using the data was kind of contained within one building that sat around the mainframe. And then fast forward to today where data is being created in devices, cameras, on the edge, data centers, clouds, kind of all over the place and being used all over the place. There's a high desire to collaborate on, get access to different data sets, share data for both, enterprise reasons as well as things like medical research. And so the rules around how do you create and share data have certainly changed. Some of the best practices of how to keep data secure, but also put data to use that you want to have changed. And there's great tools in place now to help you on that journey, no matter where you are as a company or as an individual. So today we're going to be digging into this with a great thought leader in this space. Jordan Morrow is joining us today. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And the name is awesome. I love the name Unchained. What a great name.
Thank you. Certainly, it's fitting as we all are hungry for data. It's kind of amazing as we go through our show guests on. Sometimes it's for medical research, but sometimes it's, for just our own personal usage on, day-to-day activities and governments and around the world. It's just become such a important currency of the way business is done. Is an exciting topic. So before we go into what you do for your day job, so to speak, maybe give us just a little bit of background about how you ended out where you are today, some of the things that you've done in data thought leadership.
Yeah, so I've been in the data space, you could say, my entire career. Started at American Express after college, and I had the fun time of being there during the financial downturn, the housing downturn, which, of course, was a big issue with American Express. But my love of mathematics...
Your idea of fun may be different than mine.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely a massive stress. I was young family, and thankfully made it out okay through that. But my love of data just increased over time. And I was lucky enough to get hired by Click, the data analytics vendor, but hired in a different way to be an entrepreneur, essentially. And I was able to help pioneer and invent the entire space of data literacy, which absolutely required a lot of thought leadership around it because it was being built from the ground up. But there, everything has taken off. Like, I speak around the world still to this day on that topic. As you can imagine, it's dovetailed into AI literacy, AI strategy, all of that. I've written 4 books. I'm actually writing my 5th right now, all around the world of data. And this latest one will be great. It's around skills for the masses when it comes to AI and data. And so I'm essentially what you would call just a big nerd. And I love being a big nerd. I think it's great.
My daughter is at a robotics camp this week. And the only reason this pops to my mind is I was telling my husband, who's traveling right now, how much she's enjoying building robotics. And he said, I'm so glad our daughter's going to be a nerd. So
it's a good
that comment
career
resonates
path.
with me. It is, yes. So maybe to give us a little preview into this latest book you're writing. You said Data for the Masses. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, data and AI. So the title will be around data and AI skills, but I really created a formula that says data plus AI plus IQ, which is, of course, intelligence, plus EQ, which is our emotional intelligence. When you combine those 4 things together, you actually get success. And I'm really big that the human in the loop needs to be a part of everything we do with data and AI, not leaving them out. But what that requires is that the masses have a better understanding of what that means, right? If we're a data scientist or AI engineer, we have a better grasp around the technical and the data. But what we really want is to bring the human part of ourselves to the data, whether it's creativity, curiosity, critical thinking, innovation, all these things, combine it with the data and AI, and you can see more success. And the final piece of that is the emotional intelligence. I think there's so much going on right now around AI that causes fear, anxiety, trepidation, that we need to have better emotional intelligence reading our own self-awareness. But how can we help others to build confidence in what's going on versus to feel scared with what's going on?
It's an interesting concept for sure. You think about folks who are not technical trying to use AI, and there's a lot there, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not just the fear, but lack of understanding and the idea of computers taking over the world and all that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept. Maybe we can have you jump back on the show once you've published that.
Absolutely.
And we can talk
Be
a little bit
happy
more
to.
about it. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's jump over to what you do for your day job right now. You're the Senior Vice President of Data and AI Transformation at Agile One. Can you tell us a little bit about what does Agile One do and what is kind of your mandate in that role?
Agile One works in total talent management. It's a part of a big parent company that does staffing, recruiting, and talent-based needs. And I was brought in because our company president had the foresight to say, we need someone who could do AI. And I've come in and I run all of our data and AI transformation strategy. And from a day-to-day perspective, I'm really focused in on the AI. We had a really good data team and it is still running and doing a great job. And so I've come in to figure out how do we utilize and harness all of AI, not just generative AI. And I think there's a clear distinction we have to make sure we make there is machine learning and AI have been around a long time. In fact, the term was coined in 1956. So it's been around a long time. So I don't want us to forget machine learning and predictive modeling and algorithms. Those have been here. But we couple that with generative AI to build more effective, efficient solutions, whether it's in-house or whether it's for our clients. And so I'm given that mandate to run it, not just for Agile One, but to help lead out at the parent company on not just how our organization can handle and utilize AI, but how do we help our clients? Right now, it's kind of an interesting job market where CEOs, do they hire for skills? Do they hire for degrees? And so they're using AI to help that out. And we're trying to help our customers and our clients figure out how to do that well.
So when you talk about AI transformation, is that the next version of digital transformation? Is that kind of how you think of it?
I do, but I think about it in maybe an exponential way compared to digital transformation. Because the digital transformation, it's been around a long time. And digital transformation, data transformation, these are all things that have been more so easier for humans to adapt to. The problem with AI is it's moving at a rate that we can't adapt quick enough to adapt to what it's doing. And so when I think of AI transformation, I take a step back and I look at what use cases can AI or data solve for the organization, and what kind of maturity are we looking at right now? Are we very beginning stages? Or are we very advanced? And there's going to be obviously a spectrum along those things. And so I'm finding the right fit for AI solutions. I don't go out and just buy AI solutions. I find the use cases to solve, and then what AI solutions help us solve that. So for me, this transformation then needs to be coupled with literacy. It's one thing to buy all this stuff, but it's another to create the upskilling initiatives that are needed by the employees to be able to consume these things correctly.
So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. You mentioned use cases. You and I talked about this when we were prepping for this conversation. What are the top kind of handful of use cases for AI that you see bubble up most often?
I think for me, a lot of it deals with when we think of AI, a lot of people are only familiar with generative AI like ChatGPT or Claude from Anthropic, Gemini from Google. And for me, those use cases are the easier ones for people to utilize. Those are going to be, I need ideas generated. I need emails improved. I want this document summarized for me. Those are very simple but powerful ways to create efficiencies in a person's career utilizing AI. A big key for me, though, is it's not there to supersede the human. It's there to augment the human. I want the human intelligence, the human skills that AI isn't necessarily going to possess to be coupled with that AI. And then a different use case is wherever I can find good use cases around predictive modeling, I'm going to do it. I'm going to use machine learning, data science, so that predictive modeling is not forgotten, but that sits at the forefront with generative AI. So when we think about it, it's not point in time solutions. What we want to create is an AI ecosystem. That way, when different use cases come on board, we have different tools and skill sets in the organization to adopt them and deploy them effectively. And so when you do that right, the change management around it is so much easier than we just bought this tool and now go figure out something to do with it. I go the reverse. We have this problem we're solving. Now let's go deploy it. And we use the tools to help us get there.
So when you think about the problems you're solving, is it usually individual productivity? Is it something more on the business level of a program they're trying to improve efficiency on? What level do you tend to work at?
For a lot of the efficiency side, I will absolutely say yes, it's on the individual or team perspective. The reality is, though, when you build it for one individual, a lot of times you can scale it out across individuals in an organization. So it might start with one person or a team, but then you look for ways to scale it out so that you're increasing the efficiency of the organization as a whole. But that's going to be more on the generative side. When it comes to predictive modeling, that's going to be more organizationally, right? That's going to be whether it's in talent management, you're trying to predict a good time to fill metric, or how many staff an organization needs, or what skills they're going to be hiring for in the future. That's predictive modeling. That's going to be more scaled at a grander scale. The efficiencies and things like that, you'll find where you can fit them in, but you do want to look for economies of scale, because what that does is it uplifts the organization as a whole.
And when you think about, maybe you can just envision one of your sample clients that maybe has some security around their data. Are they tending to use their own data? Are they loading it into models and containing which type of data they use publicly? Can you talk a little bit about the data management portion?
Yeah, the data management is absolutely crucial. When we think about free generative models like a ChatGPT, the free model, or free Gemini, or free Copilot, that data is not secure. So you don't necessarily want to put the free data out there. You want to have it so that you're paying for a model. And I'm a big believer that it's an investment, right? We're willing to spend, I've got me a drink right here. You're drinking your coffee. We invest in that. We should also be investing in AI licenses to protect our data. So the data management side is your AI is only as good as your data. I mean, data is truly the currency for good AI. The way I build models is I will take the general knowledge, even some web knowledge, and then I combine it with secure data on my side so that you're combining those things, but my data is not going out to train those models themselves. They're training internally, but there's a ring fence around it so it's protected. That's what I would advise companies to do. Is you don't want to stick free information into free models that they will then train on that information and then it's out there. Call it goodbye. Instead, I'm going to have a protection around my data so that, yes, we're feeding it our data, but it's ring fenced and protected in a way that it's not training the larger LLM models themselves. And that's where the power lies, is training on your own data, but not giving away your secret sauce.
And do you advise on the tools? So kind of the data management component and how to keep the correct data secure, but which AI tools or which models, how to bring them and deploy them? Is that part of what you're doing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an advisory side of things that is really just me. And so when a client reaches out and wants some help, I'm first going to work with the tool set they already have, because if they've already got a generative AI model in place, then usually either through the enterprise licensing or whatever, you can find that it is secure. But they still might come to me. Like if people were to ask me which one I prefer using, it's Gemini. That's only personal preference. Large language models operate in similar fashion. I just prefer to use Gemini, so I pay for a good license at Gemini. So if they come to me and ask for advice on which one, well, we're going to look at what they have in-house. And if nothing, then we'll look at which tools they like. We'll let them test them. And then they need to deploy it. And you can build your own internal large language model, if you will, where you're trained on your own data. It's done for a specific use case. Like, for example, new hire training. When an organization takes on new hires, there could be lots of documentation around new hire training. Instead of doing that, why don't we just stick like a Copilot license on top of it? Then they could just ask questions of it. When they have questions, instead of turning to a manager, they just ask the LLM the question and it gives it to them. So those are those efficiency gains, all within the secure framework, and then finding the right tool to make it happen.
When a client comes to you and says, we need some help, do they generally know what their use case is or what problem they want to solve with AI? Or is it more of the, eek, I feel like I need to be a part of this. I don't really know where the best application of this technology is in my business. Can you help me sort out the use case?
It's usually going to be the latter versus the former. A lot of times companies will have maybe a couple people internally who know how to use these things. But a lot of it I feel is that what people are doing is we know we need to use it. We just don't know where to start. And so I will go in as this advisor and say, well, let's just create a list of pain points that you have. And then what we do is we narrow that list down. I have an AI prioritization matrix that we go through that shows this one is a very hard one to implement and will take too much time, so we should avoid it. This is low-hanging fruit with high impact. Maybe this is one to attack. And so that way you're not overwhelmed. Call it like the Cheesecake Factory, right? Anyone who's ever eaten at that restaurant knows that menu is so big. So it makes it hard to choose which cheesecake you want or which food you want. So I'm the one who would say, we're going to take that big menu and then we're going to narrow it down and we're going to create priorities. And then once we have those priorities, what is the lift that it takes? Is there investment involved? Is there upskilling involved? So that you're not just going about this in a chaotic way, but you're going structured so that you get the best ROI and value you can, because these tools are super powerful if they are used well.
We've kind of talked about individual use of AI, corporate use of AI. Do you feel like these tools are being used even at the kind of government, global sort of level? And, you and I were chatting a little bit about tariffs and some of the impact of data on tariffs. But how high up have you had experience? Where are you seeing this kind of technology being used, even, at kind of the national levels?
Yeah, so I'm an advisor to the U.S. Army, and I work with generals. And you have some generals that get this whole side of data literacy, the idea of bringing AI in, and you might have some pushback. But absolutely, you're going to have throughout different levels of government, not just in the United States, but across the world, where varying levels are doing stuff with this. Now, for me, I'm almost a big believer that it needs to be a mandate, right? Part of public education all the way up through higher ed, that there is a core curriculum around this, because it's happening. And whether people want it to or not, the investments are being made. We're watching the transformation happen in front of us. I have a buddy whose AI is inventing new math. If you want to think about that one for a minute and how deep that goes when you're like, wait a minute, the AI is inventing math? Yes, it's inventing math. So to be able to create that literacy across government, public, private sector, you name it, is something I'm huge on. And so, yes, you do see it being used. In fact, I'm going to be having like a coffee break or something like that with, I think it's a White House data scientist. And so you're seeing it in places, and that's what we need. And we just need that to continue to go up.
It will definitely be interesting to see how not just universities, but companies deploy their education around AI, because it's kind of multi-pronged, right? It's not just technology, it's best practices, it's risk, it's liability, all of those different pieces. Have you seen any great tools for that so far? Companies advising on it, recommendation guides? Have you written the book? Anything along those lines?
So it's one, I have written some things that I would think others should be doing, right? I created an internal prompt engineering manual that I share out so that people use the tools effectively. We've created an AI governance model. Every organization should have it. And guess what? It should be a part of the data governance model, because we get so caught up in the AI side of this. All the strategy and things that data had before are still here. And we can't forget that. You can't just buy an AI tool and magically everything works. Instead, the governance side of it. So for me, I think at the organizational level, to get these things right, staying with the basics matters. And if they're trying to go too advanced too quick, we're just going to fall short. And so for me, I look at it, the best practices are out there. It's easy to find them. You can create your own internal assessments, maturity models, manuals using generative AI. And I would advise people to do it. Right? It's one of those that you could spend a month or two writing it yourself, or you could spend an hour working with AI to get it right. And then the rest of that time is your strategic work around it, deploying it, using it effectively, making sure it makes sense. And I think that's one of those keys that I look at AI as a PhD partner that I'm going to use regularly. And I hope everybody is doing the same, not to supersede me, but to augment me and to free my time to be more human.
Yes, absolutely. I had a intern do a little project for our own company on best practices for our teams on using AI. And it was a bit of technology, a bit of, kind of intellectual, just kind of research that a student had done on how do you govern what you put into the AI, what you don't, those types of things. But, that key takeaway of you should always have your window open and ready to chat with whichever model you use is so true. And I've seen numbers that are just staggering on the efficiency of the folks who do and the folks who don't. That I think that's a really good recommendation. And, one of the things I'm curious if you have a strong opinion about is how you select your model. I know you said you kind of have a preference. I do too. And actually for different tasks, I have different preferences. Like I'll use O3 for one and Copilot for another. And maybe for those getting started, how do you figure that part out? Is it just trial and error?
Trial and error. Go and experiment. If you really want to get good at this, all it takes is 15 minutes a day minimum. I'm going to guess once you get good at it, you'll start using it more than that. Find a tool, prompt it for 15 minutes on either a personal, individual, family problem you're working on or a business problem, and just start working with it. Tell it to generate ideas. If you don't know how to start, literally prompt it by saying, I don't know where to start. What should I do? And see what it says. But yes, I would experiment. Like I pay for multiple licenses. I have a ChatGPT license. I have a Gemini license. I have an Anthropic license. I have a Perplexity license. I don't use ChatGPT anymore because my wife started to use it for her master's and I don't want to do anything. It's started to learn her, right? It's starting to learn how she operates. If I start to go in there and put some of my stuff into it, I don't want it to switch that up. So that license is hers. Gemini is mine. I use that for so many different things. I really like the deep research feature, so I use it often. So for me, it is trial and error. Just spend 15 minutes. Like I say, if you can spend, let's say I love my tea, right? If I can spend so much money on tea a month, I can also spend that much money on a license just to get the protection and privacy I need.
So as we start to wrap up, I feel like sometimes all of these conversations can seem a bit overwhelming, especially to folks who haven't done a lot with AI yet. Do you have kind of a methodology you use to approach this in a more step-by-step fashion?
Yeah, one of the key things I want people to realize, and we're going to come at it from a business perspective. A lot of times we are overwhelmed because we'll be sitting here saying to ourselves, I don't know where I need to use data and AI. And I take a different approach. Data and AI strategy is just how you're going to use data and AI to fulfill your day-to-day job and your business strategy. It's that simple. And so I would start to take a look at what are you doing already, and then start to investigate how that comes into play. I have what I call my 4 rights of data and AI, because there's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of AI tools out there. There's a lot of talk out there. But what we want to do is boil it down to solving those use cases and problem statements. How do we do that? Well, we want to make sure we have the right data and or AI at the right time for the right objective with the right literacy. And all that last one means is having the right skill set. So instead of being overwhelmed, you might be working on a key marketing project right now that is a part of the massive business strategy you're doing. Great. Start right there. What data or AI could I use with this project? Is it available at the right time? How will I use it for the objective? And do I have the skills to do this? And if not, do I know someone that does? So right there, it is a pinpointed way to get rid of all the fluff and all that and say, I want to narrow this down. This is a way that I can do it. People can feel overwhelmed and it's hard. It really is. I live and breathe this. How many people live and breathe AI? They don't. So there is all this out there. So rid yourself of all that murkiness and come at it from those 4 rights and solve problems. And if you do that, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable with it.
And it sounds like from the previous conversation, you can take the same methodology to attack the Cheesecake Factory menu.
Absolutely. Now, just go traditional cheesecake, maybe with some strawberries, and you'll be okay.
And if folks would like to reach out to you for consulting advice, maybe they're interested in a project with Agile One, what's the best way to connect?
Easiest is LinkedIn. Just find me by my name, Jordan, Jordan, Morrow, just like tomorrow, cut off the 2. I do have an Instagram out there, the Chief Nerd Officer, _ between each of the words. But LinkedIn is by far the easiest. And I'm an open book. If you reach out to me on there, you're probably going to get a response. And the only time I usually don't is I get salespeople sometimes who just come right at, and I'm like, yep, I'm not going to answer that one. But if you come at me and say, hey, Jordan, I would like some help with this or that. In fact, I have a call later today as we record this with someone who reached out just on LinkedIn, just for some help. I'm an open book. I love this stuff, as you could probably tell. So let's just get connected with me and we'll help you out.
Sounds great. And before I say goodbye, I've been looking at your background this whole time. What are the numbers and what are the, I think, shoes underneath them back there?
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
I am or was an ultra marathon runner. I ran my first ultra marathon in 2014 and last one in 2023. I think that phase of my life is kind of done. I love to weightlift. I'm a rugby coach. And we have built, I'm a huge gym rat. And instead of paying for a gym, we just built one. So you'll see some Peloton or spin shoes right here. If you were to look at my right, I've got a row machine, a treadmill, a bike, some weights. Out there, I've got my weight rack, my Smith machine. I'm a gym rat. I love it. And my family has gotten into it too. I've got kids who work out regularly. My wife does. So it's great.
Love it. Hey, Jordan, it's been really a pleasure to meet you. And thank you for your time joining the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Data Unchained, powered by Hammerspace. To learn more, visit hammerspace.com. If you have a guest you would like to hear on the show, email me at molly@hammerspace.com.